Happy Friday, everyone. Hope you're enjoying this beautiful fall day. We were just talking about things to do in the fall and the different pumpkin patches and everything around the area. So definitely hope you have some plans this weekend. I'm Donna Steinfeld. I am the Senior Associate Director for Advising Services at ISSS, and I am joined by Adiola. Adiola, did you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Let's see. Hi, everyone. My name is Adiola. I'm one of the ISSS advisor. Nice to meet you all. Very simple.
Thanks, Adiola. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to present on Curricular Practical Training, also known as CPT. We know this is a very popular topic, so we'll get right to it. And I'm just making sure. All right, here we go. So many of you want to know, like, what is the purpose of CPT? So just to give you an overview, as F-1 students, so everyone here should be F-1 students, this is a type of employment authorization that is possible prior to you completing your program. So you can gain work experience in the US in situations where the work is integral to your academic program and your curriculum. So it has to do with your academics versus what you may know as OPT, which is like practice just to gain practical experience. But this is an integral part of your academic program, your curriculum, and again, while you're in your program before you complete it. So the criteria. So what are some of the criteria for CPT work authorization? As I mentioned before, and is that it must be integral part of your established curriculum, and you're looking for one of these scenarios. So these are going to be usually as a student at Penn, it's not just being a Penn student, but what your program and how the curriculum of your program is set up. So sometimes it may be required of all degree candidates in a program. Everyone must have an internship. Everyone must have some type of work practical experience. It's not many programs that this occurs, but there are a few programs that this is one of the requirements. And then having this requirement in the academic program then would allow students to apply for CPT based on this reason. Now, the most common is that the internship is an integral part, but it's because you're receiving academic course credit for your work. It could be that you're registered in your dissertation and it's integral to your dissertation. You have a course that allows for CPT work authorization. Maybe you're doing an independent study and you are getting credit based on connecting that independent study to a work employment opportunity. So that's probably going to be the most common thing in regards to getting that academic credit. Now, some of you may be part of one of the schools that is listed on here. And just so you know, this is a great resource. So if your school is listed here, if you go onto our website, you can also link to this slide. And it will tell you what the policy is for each of these programs. So each of these programs have established CPT, whether it's courses, process, how to do the CPT and register for the academic part of it. So I encourage you, if you're a student in one of these programs, to make sure to look this up so you're familiar with what's possible for you. If your program's not listed here, it doesn't mean that you can't do CPT, but it may be a more individualized process, that you may want to, look further into as to what may be possible and whether it's a course you register for, but it will start on the academic side. So this is kind of a little bit more to be eligible for CPT. So anyone that's eligible for CPT must be in valid F-1 status. So it's a benefit of your F-1. So you must have that status and have been at least in F-1 status in the US for 1 full academic year. There are some exceptions at the graduate level, and that's if your program requires you to do CPT as soon as you begin. And it's not common, so that's a very uncommon thing, but that is the one possible exception. Otherwise, you do need to have been at least 1 full academic year in lawful F-1 status. All right, so the next thing is that you have to have a declared major. So if you're looking to do CPT, as it's directly related to your major study, you must have declared your major. So if you're an undergraduate and you're still maybe in year 1 or 2 and you don't yet have a declared major, CPT is not going to work in that scenario. Also, it is job specific. So you have to have a job offer before you can apply. So CPT is specific to the employment. So when you get an authorization to work under CPT, you're going to get an I-20 that's going to have your employer's name, the city and state where you're for the employer's address. You're going to have specific dates. So a key thing is that you are working and you have the job, so you have the major, you have the job, then you're registering for that eligible course. So if you're needing to register for a CPT course, that would be the next step before you're able to actually apply for the CPT. And as I mentioned before, for PhD students, if you're in dissertation status, it's possible, if that is integral, that work you're doing is integral component of the dissertation, you need that in order to be able to complete and work on your dissertation, that is something that may work as well. And again, as I mentioned before, the employment must be directly related to the major field of study that you have at Penn. So you want to make sure whatever job you're doing, you can relate it to your major. Okay. So this is going to go a little bit into the application process itself. Excuse me. Okay, so you're going to obtain the job offer letter. And you want to make sure that's on company letterhead and signed. So you've been offered the job, you get that documentation, you get the letter that they're giving you the job and offering that to you. Then you're going to register for the CPT eligible course if it's based on academic credit. Then you're going to go into IPEN, and there is an e-form for request CPT, and you're going to do that with your supporting documents. And then what'll happen is that you'll have a second approver. So your school, your academic advisor will get an email to go in and approve the e-form and confirm that you are eligible and for the CPT in regards to your academic standing, your enrollment. They approve it, and then it comes back to ISSS. So once it's approved, and by the second approver, the school, your DSO at ISSS, your assigned advisor, within 3 to 5 business days, during normal time. It can take slightly longer during peak, up to 7 business days, but you'll receive that new I-20 with that on page 2 with the actual CPT authorization. So you need to make sure you follow these steps and have the I-20 before starting employment. But again, all of this process is going to take about, you want to allow at least 2 weeks, if not more. So it is something that can be done fairly quickly once all the steps are put in place.
Okay. No,
Okay. Did it advance for you, Adiola?
no, it didn't change, but
Okay, let me make sure that advances.
okay.
Let me try again. There we go. That's the
Mm.
next slide for you, right?
Yes, that's the one. Thank you, Donna. So just to repeat what Donna just said, the CPT application, you should allow at least 2 weeks before your internship begins. So if you know that your internship is going to begin maybe, let's say, October 15th, it's expected that you would have submitted the application to your department at least 2 weeks ago. So that way, if there's a delay, if there are needs for corrections, things like that, there's enough time for the back and forth and then for you to get approved before starting, because you can't start your CPT experience until you've received the final approval from ISSS. And part of that final approval is you receiving the CPT with all your information on it on the second page. So, and the other thing I'll mention is that CPT is usually granted on a semester by semester basis, unless your school program has some kind of special arrangement with us, which is very rare, but most CPT are granted on a semester to semester basis. So that means, for example, for this fall, you can request for CPT in the fall, anytime from August 27th to as late to end on December 19th. You can do any time in between the entire months or a few weeks in between. So on a semester to semester basis. Come spring, you also do the same thing. During the summer session, you also do the same thing. So it's rare that you will have a year length of CPT approval or that it will flow into another. So again, application timeline, allow 2 weeks, and keep in mind that it's on a semester to semester basis. Okay. And then just to, again, to go over the basics of CPT, it is an employment option available to you before graduation. It is an opportunity for you to, is either an integral part of your program, it's a requirement of your program, but it's an opportunity to have a practical experience of what it is that you are studying before graduation. So, and it's something that must be approved by ISSS, not the government. That's where the difference between CPT and OPT is. OPT, you eventually have to send your application into USCIS for their final approval, while CPT, the final approval comes from ISSS. So, and our time doesn't take as long as USCIS, which can be months. For ISSS, it's within 2 weeks, everything should be resolved. You must have completed 1 academic year of full-time enrollment with active service record. So again, 1 academic year, it's usually maybe fall to spring or spring to fall. And if you are one of the few exceptions where maybe your program started in the summer, then it will be summer to spring. So you must finish 2 consecutive semesters, which qualifies you as an academic year on a full-time status. And also the CPT internship, employment, education experience, whatever it is, must be related to your major. It can't be you are studying, let's say you're studying engineering and you decide you want to go and do something in finance or something randomly. There has to be a relationship to your major. And then also you cannot start working until CPT is approved, and the CPT approval I-20, you have received it with all the information listed on the second page. So I'll mention as just an advice, whenever you get the approval and you get the CPT, just review the I-20 to make sure that all the information is there. It's signed both on the first and second page by your DSO. It has your employer information on the second page. The date range are correct. So that way you are ready and prepared to go. I will also mention that if you apply, for example, you applied for CPT and just before you start, you realize that, okay, you're no longer interested or you don't want to do, maybe either you canceled or the employer canceled, it's best that you reach out to your DSO as soon as possible, so that way it can be canceled. So just keep that at the back of your mind that it's possible to cancel it, but you need to do it ahead of time. Okay, next page. So, and then future implications of CPT. So when you do CPT, there are 2 ways you can be approved for CPT, either on a full-time basis or on a part-time basis. So on a full-time basis, that means a maximum of 12 months, and that can be divided throughout the 4 years that you are a student or the 2 years that you're a student, but you can't exceed 12 months on a full-time CPT approval status. Because if you reach 12 months, that means you are no longer going to be eligible for OPT. That completely eliminates the OPT option for you. And unfortunately, if you don't have the OPT option, if you happen to study a STEM program, you won't be eligible to do that at that point. So, and then also there is a possibility if you didn't go through the right process for the CPT, down the line when you're applying for STEM OPT, H-1B, or permanent resident, it can come up as a inquiry, which is usually done request for evidence by USCIS. So if they are aware that you worked somehow within the US, but there are no information on any of your I-20s you submitted, they will definitely ask you for information, ask you for questions. So it's very important that you go through the routes, the processes that we mentioned earlier about getting CPT. Don't start any kind of internship activity without going through those processes. If at any point you have a question, go ahead and reach out to your DSO. We are more than available to answer your questions before it gets to the point where you are trying to backtrack and correct some errors. So full-time CPT, if you reach 12 months, that eliminates you from OPT benefits. But if you do part-time CPT, meaning less than 20 hours per week, you can have that and you can do that as many times as you need to, and that does not have any implication on your OPT benefits or anything else. So part-time CPT, you have the option of as many times. Full-time CPT, meaning 20 hours and above, the maximum you can do for that is 12 months. You don't want to reach 12 months. I would not advise you to reach 12 months. If you can end well before that, that's to your best advantage. So thank you. Next one. And then important reminders and condition. So like I mentioned just now, CPT can be both part-time or full-time. So, and the full-time, that's the other thing I should mention, full-time CPT is usually only allowed when classes are not in session. That's during the break time. That can be during the spring break, summer break, winter break, fall break. During those periods when you're not expected to be taking classes, you can work well above 20 hours, which is considered full-time. So that's only when you're allowed to do full-time CPT. During an academic semester, you can only do part-time, less than 20 hours a week. If there are any changes, again, like I mentioned before, either maybe you or the employer decide that you don't want to go forward with this activity, this engagement, reach out to your ISSS advisor as soon as possible, so that way corrections, changes can be made, we can cancel it, things like that. And then also it's possible to have multiple employers simultaneously, meaning you can have more than one CPT employer, internship, externship, job, employment going on at the same time. Now, if it's a part-time CPT, all the combination of employers you have cannot exceed 20 hours. So for example, if you're working for team A and you're working for team B, between the two of them, you can't exceed 20 hours on a part-time CPT. If it's during the summertime or during any of the breaks when classes are not in session, you can work as many hours as you need to, as you want to, but during an academic session, part-time status cannot exceed 20 hours. And each of the employers that you have or that you're going to be engaged with, they must be listed separately on the e-form that you're filling out, and they will be listed separately on your I-20. So you will see team A, location from this time to this time, team B, location from this time to that time. They can overlap if that's what you want, and you can handle those hours, or they can be one after the other, but you can make requests at the same time, you can work multiple employers at the same time. And then let's say start and end date of your choice. CPT, like I said before, must be within a semester, it can't overflow into another semester or into a break. So if you know, or if you're ready, like I said, semester by semester, in the fall, you can apply, in the spring, you can apply, during the summer, you can apply, during the 1 week spring break, you can apply. So it just cannot overflow or overlap into each other. Okay. The next slide. Okay. So your SSN number is not what determines your Social Security, your work authorization. You must have a job first before you can get a Social Security number. And you having a Social Security number isn't the authorization you need or you have to start working in the US. The authorization to work in the US comes from either CPT, OPT, H-1B, or you're working on campus. that's when you'll be eligible. Those are what's considered authorization, work authorization in the US. SSN is your identification number that you can provide to your employer on their I-9 that they'll be collecting from you. So, and that's a separate process, that's a separate identification and procedure that you go to. So when you're on CPT, that's like an off-campus employment. So the procedure for getting an SSN with CPT is different from if you are on an on-campus employment. So for SSN through CPT, you must have been approved for the CPT. You have the I-20 as your proof, you have your passport, and you're going to print out your I-94. You will take all those things to the Social Security Administration office. You fill out an application with them. They will want to look through and look at the documents you are bringing in for them to verify and do their own procedure. So it's from there you will find out also how long it's going to take for you to get a Social Security number. If, depending on the employer you are working with, where you're doing your internship or employment, they may be willing to allow you to start working while you're waiting for your Social Security number to come in, or they may ask you to wait until you have received your Social Security. So that might be something you want to speak with your potential employer when you get to that point. So, and you can apply for your Social Security 30 days before the beginning of your CPT. So for example, if you know that your CPT is going to start November 1st, and you've gotten the approval for your CPT anytime from now, you can use this period to go to the Social Security office and apply for the Social Security number. So hopefully the idea is that within that 30 days, you should get the Social Security number. Then come November 1st, you'll be able to present yourself, your passport, and any other thing required by your employer to commence your activity with them. You can find out more information about Social Security on our website. The website is listed there. It goes into details for for on-campus employment, CPT, OPT, different options on getting your Social Security. Okay. Okay, so these are frequently asked questions that we get from students. So for example, how long does CPT take to apply for? Like we mentioned earlier, it can take up to 2 weeks to apply for it, get the approval, get everything. So keep in mind 2 weeks. And then, do I need to have a job offer before I apply for CPT? Yes, you do. You need to have a job offer and you need to have an offer letter. Without any of those things, you can't apply for CPT. Even if you register for the course, without the offer letter or anything, you cannot. Then the next question, do I need to send my CPT request to USCIS? No, you don't. CPT is processed and approved by ISSS. So you just log into your IPEN account, go to Student Services and pick the option for CPT request. That's how the process works. Then the next one is, can I start working after I submit my CPT to ISSS? No, you cannot. You can only start working once your CPT request has been approved and you have received the CPT I-20. I will say that again. You can only start working once your CPT has been approved and you have received the CPT I-20. Okay. Donna, do you want to ask the other questions? Okay. So if you have any questions or if you want to get more information, you can always take a look at any of this, our contact, either through Instagram, Facebook, go to our website. There are so many ways that you can connect with us and get answers to your question. And on top of that, the best route also is just reaching out to your DSO, your assigned advisor. He or she is available to answer your questions, whether by email, by drop-in, virtual drop-in, or by scheduled appointment. Okay.
And we do have a few questions in the chat. So I started asking some of them by writing, but we can go ahead and let me see, is the share still going or is that stopped?
The sharing has stopped.
Okay. So I started going through, let me I the question about there's a question in regards to the right to restrict the time we can use CPT. I mean, CPT in general, I'm not familiar with the program that is mentioned. I mean, that's probably a good thing to discuss to understand first with your academic advisor as well as ISSS. But CPT is academic based, so it is going to depend on what the academic requirements are your program. And it can vary across different programs. Um, and then the next question is, what if you only have an internship class for the semester? Can you apply full-time CPT? Now, usually again, it's going to be very specific to a program. Usually full-time CPT, if it's during the academic year, is only going to be possible um, if it is your like full-time dissertation, full-time thesis, um, unless it's something where you have some type of full-time requirement, like at the end of your program, for example, there's probably only a few specific programs where that's possible. But again, if it's something normally, you are going to have to maintain your full-time enrollment, and especially if you still have classes, and only be possible to take part-time CPT. And if a lot of times, most programs, you can't just have CPT. All right, Adiola, did you want to go ahead and take the next one, or?
Okay. So the next one is, my job starts in the winter break and goes to the spring semester. Is it okay that I only apply for the spring semester? No, if your job starts in winter break, it depends again on your program, your department. There are some departments whereby the course you need for the winter break CPT, you will register for it in advance. So that way you can do the activity and you have registered to take it in the next semester. So maybe the registration of the course attached to that experience you're trying to have during the winter, the course is only available in the spring. So you would need to have registered for it ahead of time before you can commence on that winter break internship. Am I on the right track, Donna?
I believe so.
It's
Yes,
very rare, but yeah.
yeah. And I think, is it Chen? Because I think you have another question too about having additional courses. I think definitely look at the advising schedule. I think it might be good to kind of sit down and look at your situation in general. I mean, if you're in full-time dissertation status and you're just looking to take classes like for your own thing, it could be possible, but you may need to talk to your academic program as well, because to see what's feasible in regards to adding classes as well as being on full-time dissertation. So that might not be a bad idea to talk to someone.
Okay. So the other question, I am an international freshman student currently. If I get an offer for summer 2025 internship in related field, am I able to get the CPT? When should I apply for the summertime CPT? So as a freshman year, by the time you're applying for your summer internship, you would have completed 2 academic semesters, which is one of the requirements for you to be able to apply for CPT. And I want to take it that you are currently on a full-time status, both now and in the spring. So if you meet at least those 2 requirements, yes, you can apply for CPT and you start the application process in the spring. So that's when, and then, or it depends on when in the summer your CPT also starts. So if it's something that will start right away, then you can apply for it in the spring. But if it's something that starts later in the summer, you can also wait to apply for it.
And I just want to add there, though, it's not
Right,
going to be possible for all freshmen.
right.
It's something where you have to have a declared major, which if you're in the college, and I believe Wharton as well, that's probably not going to be possible as of that time. And the Wharton CPT is only possible for rising juniors and seniors. So there's a few different criteria where you have, as Adiola explained, what makes you eligible immigration-wise, it's not always going to be feasible academic-wise. It's not common for freshmen to be able to do CPT. So depending on what your program is, will determine at what point you can start CPT. So if you're able to declare your major and a CPT course is possible your first summer, then you might be able to do it. If you're not able to declare your major, then you're not going to qualify for CPT based on that. Or if there's no course that's offered, for example. If you can declare your major, then there is the option, maybe pre-completion OPT is necessary. But I would say as a freshman, it's
No.
very limited.
So, and then just to add, generally or overall, when it comes to CPT, it requires both the academic and the immigration for you to be able to do it. Like Donna just mentioned, you may be eligible on the immigration side, but your program and your department have their own requirements that you must meet. So usually any advisor you meet or speak with, we always advise you to talk to your department, talk to your academic advisor to find out that you're on track to meet their eligibility requirements. So always remember that there are two components to getting approved for CPT, the academic side and the immigration side. And you want both of them to be on par in order for you to be eligible to apply for CPT.
So similar to this next question, can I apply CPT in the final semester for graduation? It's going to depend on your program again. Do you have other classes? Are you in a program that doesn't allow final semester CPT? Remember the links we showed earlier. If you go on our website, you go into the CPT section, you can look at your program guidelines. And it's going to be program specific and as well immigration specific if that's what you have remaining. One thing I will say is that final semester CPT can be tricky, and it is definitely something that can be scrutinized. It never should be used as a springboard to start full-time employment sooner. So it's very frowned upon by the DHS. So, it's definitely something that if your program does allow it, there is other considerations as well.
The next question, there is no 12-month limit for part-time CPT, right? Yes, there's no 12 months. The 12-month limit only applies to full-time CPT. Part-time, you can have it as many times as you want. Okay, let's see. I want to make sure I understand the question. Is it true that when looking for an internship, I can just work for companies that sponsor CPT and OPT? Okay. No companies sponsor CPT or OPT. Your sponsorship, in quote, already comes from you being a student at UPenn. So being a student at UPenn makes you're already sponsored. And then you going through the CPT and OPT route is to get the authorization to be able to work in the US. So you don't need a company to approve you for that. Now, there might be companies that, because you're an international student, they may not be open to wanting to employ you because of whatever reason, certain things that they must meet as an employer on their own side, but they're not sponsoring you. They may just decide for whatever reason they can't or they won't hire you. So keep in mind, your sponsorship already comes from UPenn. You're not looking for an employer to sponsor you whatsoever. The only companies or the only visa classification that requires that are usually like H-1B, L, TN, things like that. But CPT and OPT, no, you don't need that.
Okay. So in regards to independent study, again, it's going to depend on your program. So if you're Wharton MBA, you're probably going to have an independent study project that you work with a faculty person, and so it all depending on which program you're in. Again, you want to double check those links that we shared if your program's listed. If not, you want to talk to your academic advisor. How do I do an independent study? How do I link an independent study and work with a faculty member and have some type of academic product that is developed as part of this employment internship experience?
Should I register some specific course and then I can apply for the CPT? Yes, for you to apply for CPT, you have to register for a specific course. And to know the specific course, you need to speak to your department. Every department has their course that is set aside for CPT. It can be an independent study. It could be an actual class that has an internship component to it. So that part is dependent on your department, and you have to ask them for that. But yes, you must be registered for a course in order to be able to apply for CPT.
There's a question about the lottery and H-1B lottery and CPT. They're independent of each other. CPT is something you can only use while you're doing your academic program. And the lottery is probably something for if you were that you would possibly be put into for, but then the H-1B may start after, for example, graduation. They're fairly independent from each other.
I am a 2-year program. Is there a chance I can use 3 semesters to finish my credits and use the last semester to use CPT? Again, that you have to, it's doubtful,
It-
but
And it only, yeah, I mean, it only really would be if you have, if an internship was a requirement of
right,
your program. But if
right.
you finish all your credits and you're going to graduate, CPT is not going to work. And some programs don't allow for CPT in final semester. So again, it's going to be very specific to whether your program is structured to allow you to set things up that way. But I would say in most cases, probably not. If you're graduating, then you're looking at OPT starting sooner.
Let's see. If I'm planning to do an accelerated master degree program, how will the 12-month CPT limit count towards both degree? Donna, you can correct me on this, but I believe this requirement of this CPT is degree specific at each level. So it's 12-month max for
It's
bachelor's, 12 months, or it depends on how the acceleration is, correct?
Yeah, it would depend, right. It would depend on if, and it's very unlikely that in an accelerated master's program, even between the combination of an undergraduate and graduate program, that it would come to getting to close to 12 months of possibly having full-time CPT. But it is something, this hasn't come up, but if it is along the same lines, I would say you'd want to look at the combination, but that's something that hasn't come up recently. You may want to email that to your assigned advisor. On the spot, I can't recall whether they're accumulated, but if you're an accelerated master's program, a lot of times that's a good thing to talk about because it has a very logistical steps to work through that. Not that it's not possible, there's just a lot of like more logistics and timing, but it's very unlikely even between the two programs you would hit 12 months.
Right. And I just also want to add that chances are, even for you to be able to do it, there will be certain requirements you need to meet in that master degree for you to even be able to apply for CPT. So maybe for the master component of your overall acceleration, the department or your program may ask that you need to finish certain amount of classes, certain amount of CUs before you can even apply for it. So it's, yeah, this is I've never seen it before.
So, yeah.
So, okay. But I have heard declaring majors is not hard. Also, will majoring in computer science, I take it that's what CS means, boost the chance to pass CPT? Your major has
If you are a C's, if this student is is in C's, go onto the C's website, go onto those links. There's they have all of the details laid out. And if C's, maybe it's easier to declare a major for C's, but maybe not as much for some of the other schools. So I would say you want to follow the process for declaring a major. If you know what that's going to be, it doesn't matter if you're a C student, computer science, any of the majors are going to have the same equal footing in regards to whether CPT is eligible. It's going to depend on what C's allows, but if you go onto the C's, you're going to look and they have it all outlined as to what you can do. And I think we also we answered the next question as well already.
Yes, we did. The next one is, if I have a job on campus and I have a part-time internship using part-time CPT at the same time, does it mean that I can work up to 40 hours every week? That is up to 20 hours a week for each. So on-campus and CPT are considered two separate processes, approval. I mean, if you want to look at it, you could say, yes, 40 hours altogether. But when we are talking about CPT, the maximum you can do is 20 hours. When you're talking about on-campus employment, the maximum you can do is 20 hours. They are never, or we don't see them as clumping it together. They are both individually approved, processed, and everything. So I won't say you can work 40 hours, but I guess if you want to put it that way. So, but maximum for each is 20 hours per week. Okay. What are the maximum working hours per week for full-time CPT and part-time CPT? So for part-time CPT, the maximum hours per week is 20 hours. You can't go over that. And then for full-time CPT, which you can only have during breaks, during times when there are node classes, that you can work well above 20 hours. So depending on your workload, your strength, you can do 40 hours and above. That's really up to you. But part-time CPT generally is 20 hours and below. Full-time CPT is above 20 hours. Do you want to add anything else, Donna?
No, that was good.
Okay. Do we have any other questions? Okay. Like we said earlier, if you do have questions, your ISSS advisor is there. We have contact us on our homepage. You can schedule an appointment. You can drop in at any virtual time. We have an advisor available virtually every day, Monday to Friday, that you can connect with to ask questions. Our website is also quite detailed on information. So there's so many avenue platform for you to get your answers answered, your questions answered. So, and I believe this webinar will also be posted on our website. So you can always go back again, listen to it, see if there's some points, clarification that you will get from it and go from there. Okay, we have two questions that just came up. Okay, just to clarify, if I'm working on campus during summer, will it count towards 12-month limit? If you're working full-time during the summer, yes, that will count towards your 12-month limit. If it's part-time during the summer, no, it doesn't count. So anytime you have or get an approval for full-time CPT, it's counting towards the overall 12 months limit. Okay.
The cost of the independent studies, a lot of it's going to depend on again the program and when you're taking the course. So it's going to depend on your program. So it's definitely something good to talk to an academic advisor and as to when which program you're in is going to probably determine a lot of that cost. And I think the last question is probably good. That I think whoever the anonymous, I think it's good if you I would say reach out to your assigned advisor. I think that question is going to probably be good for a one-on-one, very specific to your program and your situation.
Okay. Can take the lead, Donna.
What's that?
I think I think we are pretty much done. There's no more
Yeah.
questions. So yeah, so it's been fun. Or do we want to wait a few more minutes just to see if anything else drops? So remember CPT, there are two parts to CPT, the academic part, and then there's the immigration part as well. So you want to make sure that you meet the requirements on both sides. And then also keep in mind to apply for CPT, give yourself a 2-week window. Time for you to get the application in, get your offer letter, submit the e-form, let it go to your department, have them do what they need to do, let it get to us in ISSS, have us do what we need to do. And from the ISSS point, the processing timeline is 3 to 5 business days. But if it's during a peak season, it can go up to 7 business days. That's business days, not days, business days. So keep that in mind as well. Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
we have
Well,
some
thank-
last minute.
Oop.
Let's see. I am in Weitzman program and they offer externships, which require CPT if it lasts for more than 1 day. Can I do the externship with a CPT in my first year, even though my program does not allow academic year CPT in the first year? That pretty much the answer is no, because you answered it right there. Even though your academic, your department, your program doesn't allow it. So if your program doesn't allow, then we cannot approve. And like Donna said earlier, most freshmen do not apply or get approved for CPT. It's usually not even an option. So, and with your program not allowing it, so definitely no. The answer is no to the question.
All right. Thank you. I think that we are coming to a close. And just want to thank everyone and hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. And happy fall.
Yes, it's a fall season. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.